but they stored also not only medicine in best-shaped bottles, but in wine bottles too. And the Romans loved him so much, they dressed him in a legionnaire costume. Here he is carved into sandstone cliff, his face, sort of brooding over a temple of Hathor. And Hathor was, as I mentioned, the goddess who, along with Bes, was a guardian at the birth temples, which were called mamisi. You know, you're going to have a baby, you don't go to the hospital, you go to the mamisi and deliver. And all the walls in the mamisi are covered with images of Hathor and of Bes. And here is a statue of Horus, the divine child that Isis bore. And above his head is hovering who? Bes. Okay, so I talked to you about the evil eye being so feared, and here is the left eye of Horus. It was once gouged out in a battle by his wicked uncle, but Hathor cured his sight. So this is a very special Horus eye that will protect you. This was the most popular amulet to have a protection against the evil eye. And here we have, now I'm sort of branching out from ancient Egypt in Hawaii, in the Solomon Islands. This is a figure that was carved on the prow of ships. Do you know why figureheads were often naked, women? Because it scared the devils who are in the water. You know, they take one look and get out of there quick. All right, most of you know about dream catchers at this point. But when I first wrote about them in Creative Dreaming, nobody heard of them. I mean, except the Indians themselves. But look how it is almost an exact form of the dreamstone. You've got, it's not solid, it's netted, but the whole purpose of the net, this is one from my collection I bought from an Ojibwa in Oregon, and they're made of willow reeds that are tied together in a circle and wrapped with sinew, okay? And the web is to catch any bad dreams. Okay, it's going to trap them, just like a spider's web. But it's got beads that lead you to the center hole, and that's to leave room for the good dreams to get through. And they're sometimes decorated with feathers. The purpose, they're hung from the front of a cradle board, and as the papoose is breathing, the feathers move. So she doesn't have to keep checking. You know, she knows that he'll or she will be safe as long as the feathers are moving and they're having good dreams. This just struck me as very interesting. This is a 19th century Sioux medicine bag, and this is a modern one. And this is where you keep your amulets, you know. And this is a Chinese one, contemporary, that was given to me. And this one is a contemporary Japanese one that was given to me by Sheila. And instead of carrying my amulet in it, I'm carrying my cell phone. And maybe that's the modern amulet. I don't know. Now, I think you should know about Nightmare Preventer. People are forever giving me, you know, dream-related gifts. And I couldn't believe this. They bought it at Toys R Us several years ago. And if it wouldn't take too long, I'd have to... It's the official Nightmare Preventer, Monsters Away. And it gives you directions to spray in every dark corner, cranny, in the back of drawers, in dark closets, and any other scary places. And in case of a particularly bad night, reapply lightly. and they have a little ad on the back that you can send a drawing of your monster, and they will give it an official stamp. They will stamp it out. You see? I don't think they're still in business, but it's pretty clever. And then we've got the great Chinese dragon, who is also a defender of sorts, because he combines both earth and sky, in that he lives under the earth. Many of the hills in China are referred to as 9 dragons or so many dragons. But on the second day of the second month, on the lunar calendar, after the full moon, he comes out of the earth and goes up into the sky, and he causes the fertilizing rains. And you know what fertilizing rain coming from the sky is? Well, it's pretty sexy, so just sort of imagine. But he also causes earthquakes and typhoons. This is a Chinese headrest. Anything look familiar? Okay, same shape, but this is a fungus, not a mountain range. It's one of those magic funguses, and if you eat this, you will get young as that baby. I mean, it's amazing how art symbolism is imbued with very sexy stuff. This is from my collection. This is a double-headed tiger pillow, and I called him Foo-Foo. This is a contemporary, Fu means luck, and he's got 2 heads, so he's double lucky, Foo-Foo. And you may have him on one of your amulet cards, but his task is the same as it was in ancient Egypt, where the 2 lions. He keeps away the bad stuff. And you put your head in between. Kids love this. If I take it to schools and, explain about what you do with it, they can't wait to put their neck, in between his 2 heads, like that. And now we move rapidly into the next hall in our Museum of Dream Amulets, which is the Devourers. The Devourers, well, they gobble up your bad dreams. They eat them. And, but it's not just like eating them to kill them. It's eating them to transform them in the original power. Here is a deceased person in the white being led by the jackal-headed god, Anubis, to have his heart weighed against a feather. This is from the Book of the Dead. And this creature down here, with his teeth open, the better to eat you with, my dear, is Amut. And Amut is a kind of hybrid hyena. And he's going to wait and see. And if you don't pass the test, if you committed too many sins, your heart's going to be ripped out and thrown to Amut. And he's going to chew it up, swallow it, digest it, and excrete it. But the components will take a new form, and you will have another life in a better form. Okay? If you pass, they have a catalog of your sins. He's the sin eater, Amut. Okay? If you pass, you become an Akh, A-K-H, which is like life, the word for life, but without one of the letters. It's without life. But it's a spirit who can help his living relatives. Okay, so you want to be sin-free so that then you can do favors after your death. You probably know the myth of Ra taking his night boat through the underworld, the far world, every night. When he sets, that's not the end of it. He's sailing on the other side, through the dark body. And all that time he's fighting a battle with this serpent who is the symbol of chaos. Okay, so it's a nightly struggle to deal with chaos, but every day Ra wins, he makes it up, you know. And here is, again, is Amut waiting in case he could get a tasty bite. Now we move to Japan. This, I'm postulating that this figure, Baku, is a descendant of Amut, because Baku's job is to gobble up nightmares. He loves them. They're delicious. They're good food for him. And his very name in Japanese means the gobbler, if I'm remembering correctly. Here's a illustration of him in a manuscript from the 1800s, I think. But you notice he's not like any animal you've ever seen. He has an elephant trunk, and he has scales, and he has hooves, which means he's fleet as a horse, he's strong as a dragon, and you know, he can do all kinds of fancy things with his trunk. Here is a Baku from my collection, and because it was making noise on the recorder, I did wear him tonight in case you wanted to rub him, because rubbing him is what brings out the luck. Okay, he's a Netsuki. And again, children love Baku. And I'm told that there are even, you know, sheets and pillowcases made with his image on, and kids are taught to call for Baku when they wake up from a bad dream, because he loves your bad dreams. So the child feels protected, and this is what you're reaching for. Here's another image of Baku. This one was carved for me in Hong Kong. And this was a gift from a good friend who knew I was doing this work. She found it in an antique shop, and it's a wooden Baku, but apparently during this time of, it's an antique, the samurai days, you know, the samurai wore swords that were lethal. The Chinese physicians wore the wooden sword. And so why in the world would they use Baku? And then it occurred to me, maybe if he likes to eat up bad dreams, maybe he'll eat up disease too, you know? But anyway, he's a handy critter to have around. And here's a modern illustrator's image of this. And notice, he's keeping guard at the child's head. Pac-Man is a descendant of Baku. Okay? It's the same word. And he gobbles up ghost monsters. I mean, isn't it interesting that there's these lines of descent? And here he is. And these, the pink guy, the blue guy, this is more orange, and the red. And they have names, and they each have a personality. I mean, it's, one is basically Speedy or Shadow Guy. One is sort of stupid. One is bashful. It's sort of like the dwarves, yeah. And here we are in the game, gobbling up ghost monsters. And here we have Kronos, or Saturn, eating his children. And I have a feeling he's not doing it to transform them into something better. just a hunch. And Pele with her, the goddess of the volcanoes, you know, with a caldera you can fall into, you can be devoured by lava here. And oh my goodness, do they give you warnings? Don't take away one smidge of lava from her sacred flanks, or she'll get you. Into the next hall and the next water. So we've had the defenders, we've had the devourers, and I'm calling these enfolders. And they're basically the figures that nourish, that comfort, that protect by sheltering. Some of these will surely be familiar to you. This is the goddess of, they call it Venus of Willendorf. It's from Austria, 20,000 years ago. Notice, it's hard to not notice, the fertility aspects that are emphasized, that show that she will produce offspring and feed them, nourish them well. And this one is 22,000 years old. It's from France. And she is holding this horned moon shape that is cut with 13 marks. These are the 13 lunar months. 22,000 years ago, they were keeping track of women's menstrual cycles. I mean, it's really quite amazing. This is Hathor that I mentioned to you before, this great fertility goddess in Egypt, who has the cow's horns, which means that she has the nature of a cow. That is, she's gentle, she's nourishing. And here, I don't know if you can see, she's sort of, her body is shaped into this cliff. It's not as clear as the one of Bess, but it's there. You can see her arm and her body sort of emerging.